going from 135 pounds or 155 pounds in third grade to 500 plus pounds as an adult. Was there ever a period of time where you said, hey, this is a problem, I need to start losing weight?
Yeah, all the time. It was just a matter of not knowing what to do or not having the wherewithal to do it for myself. It really took until I was, an adult and just sick and tired of being sick and tired before I finally put 2 and 2 together and really turned it around. As I said, keto was a good start. I got down from that 430 pounds after surgery to about 350. And then that was just before my mom passed away. When my mom passed away, I went off the rails. I like to say I jumped off the train and then jumped back in front of it repeatedly.
Wow.
Just couldn't get myself together. Emotional eating was a big issue for me. That's been a big issue for me my whole life.
When you said,
it was
when you said, you didn't know what to do, obviously there's information all over there about how to lose weight. And most people within sort of main dietetics advice would say, it's about caloric consumption, calories in, calories out type of thing. And so, weigh and measure your food, calculate how much you eat in a caloric deficit. You probably were aware of that. Why did that not work for you, or what were the problems with that strategy if you ever tried to employ it?
We did try that repeatedly over the years, the Weight Watchers style approach.
Right.
A lot of it was just being able to stick to it and not be hungry all the time. On top of, as I said, the emotional issues, having undiagnosed mental illness as a child and an adult, a young adult, none of that stuff stuck well with me. It was hard to keep with. And again, just being hungry all the time wasn't very easy.
Yeah, we can't.
I realized there would be some restriction at some point, but back then you don't necessarily think about it as you do when you get to be an older adult.
Yeah, I don't think you can, unless you can address hunger. And I think that's a big challenge for many people. What drove you to trying to do a carnivore diet? It's still, even in 2022, it's still considered fringe, crazy, nutty, these weirdo people that just eat a bunch of meat. They're all going to die of heart disease and stuff like that. That's what you hear in the media. And again, obviously I disagree with that, but what sort of led you in this path?
I'd actually heard about this way of eating when I was doing keto. A friend of mine brought up Jordan Peterson and how, the whole lion diet thing, all he was eating was beef and how it had helped him. And I thought it was crazy back then. I can remember sitting in a restaurant eating chicken wings and saying, yeah, that's nuts. There's no way. And, a couple of years later, here I am doing the thing. So it was that, a lot of the Joe Rogan stuff, specifically your interview with Rogan was a big one for me, as well as Jordan Peterson speaking with Rogan. That was a big turning point. And I said, I've got to give this a try. I've always loved steak and burgers and things like that. Bacon, especially. I do love bacon. So that was an easy sell as far as I was concerned. And I thought, well, what the hell? We did a weight loss challenge, a family weight loss challenge, myself, my wife, and my cousin. And I decided this was going to be the way that I did it. I blew through those first 12 weeks like it was nothing, and won the challenge very, very easily at that point. So once I got started, it was fairly simple as far as I was concerned. But, I really just kind of took the jump once I saw all these interviews and had this information behind me. I didn't know anything about, plants and anti-nutrients or any of that stuff. It was just a matter of, can I lose weight doing this? And I've learned so much more since then, but it was definitely a good jump start that way.
You mentioned, you had some sort of you haven't described it, mental health disorder. What was it? Depression? Was it, what was going on with you? And I can see why you'd be depressed, 500 pounds and, all these other issues, but what was going on there and how has that changed for you?
I was misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder I'm probably about 30 when I was diagnosed. I did have some depression issues, anxiety issues as a kid. Obviously being the fat kid, getting picked on and bullied quite a bit was a huge issue for me. And then it just persisted into adulthood. I learned to turn my size into self-deprecating humor, making fun of myself before anybody else could make fun of me and try to get to me. And it just turned into this monster, basically. So I went from there to, as I said, being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which I ended up finding out a couple of years ago was a misdiagnosis. I have a debilitating anxiety disorder, and some abandonment issues with PTSD. So I've kind of learned that as I've gone along, but a lot of that stuff doesn't bother me near as much anymore as it used to. I still get my days where, things are tough, but I'm able to blast through it. I honestly have nothing but carnivore to thank for that.
Well, thankfully, I mean, thankfully it's found something, you know, and I've seen that repeatedly with carnivore. A lot of people see so much improvement in mental health just mental health in general. You brought, you know, you kind of mentioned stuff about the self-deprecating humor. You know, we see this, and I'd like to get your input on this because there's a lot of this sort of obesity acceptance. Fat is, you know, beautiful. Fat is, it's okay. We see a lot of men in particular, you know, I think comics like Chris Farley and stuff like that, where they, you know, they just make fun of all their size and they just kind of get a laugh out of it. And I see a lot of guys on social media, these very obese men just, you know, shaking their bellies around and ha, 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 ha type of stuff. Is that something, you know, I mean, because other people say, well, you shouldn't criticize that because that's fat shaming type of stuff. What is your perspective on that, having been there, you know, obviously morbidly obese and now, you know, now getting more towards a normal weight size? How should society approach that, do you think?
I don't know necessarily that it's body shaming to call someone out for being unhealthy. Mm-hmm. You know, there's this whole mistaken health at any size movement that is just absolutely ridiculous to me. I don't understand how we're going to take someone like Lizzo and claim that she's healthy mm-hmm. when she clearly is not. You know, and I was highly unhealthy and I knew I was unhealthy. I just didn't care. You know, there was a point in my life where I didn't think I was going to live past 25 anyway. So I thought, well, what the hell? I might as well have fun while I'm here. So I did it. I ate what I wanted. I acted how I wanted. I was a jackass and that's all there was to it. But this whole, you know, health at any size thing is just, it's a hijacked movement that's become ridiculous. And people are, oh, you're fat shaming because you call someone up for being unhealthy. That's not necessarily the case. Healthy is dependent on a lot of different things. And if you're morbidly obese, chances are you're not healthy. It's just quite as simple as that.
Yeah, well, you're not healthy, or you're not going to become healthy regardless. I mean, you might have some normal markers for a period of time, but then it, you know, inevitably will come that way. And I think it's, you know, you point out Lizzo, and for you guys who don't know, she's a singer who's a vegan, by the way, and she's also morbidly obese and quite a talented singer. I'll give her that. But, you know, just kind of demonstrating this. And I think, you know, you point out the frustration with no matter what you try, you know, no matter how many low fat, you know, whatever Weight Watchers things you do, nothing seems to work. And then it gets easy to say, screw it. I'm just going to celebrate where I am because otherwise I'm depressed all the time. I can see that. But, you know, the weird thing is, you know, you tell people to eat just meat. Let me ask you, you said you were always hungry before on diets. And I get that. I'm a big guy too. You know, I was 300 pounds at one point, so never 500, but I was a pretty big guy. Still am. I'm still 250, but, and I have a good appetite. So I don't like being hungry either. How has diet, keto, carnivore, whatever you're on, influenced your hunger these days?